This will define everything for the Pelicans as they get ready to start their season in one of the toughest divisions in the NBA, in the toughest conference in the NBA. We're going to start doing a breakdown preview of every team that we're going to be going up against this season in the Southwest Division. And we're going to start with the Memphis Grizzlies inside this edition of Pelicans Digest. What's good with it, y'all? It's your people, Melz On The MIC, back once again inside Pelicans Digest. Hope y'all doing great out there and appreciate you for continuing to support and also continuing to subscribe. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. This is where you get the best analysis, opinions, and more about the New Orleans Pelicans from a real fan like me, you know, that watches the games and goes to the games and do all that other good stuff. And right here on Pelicans Digest. So a big shout out to everybody that's been checking us out. Really do appreciate you. And let's go ahead and get it cracking and start doing a breakdown of the teams that we're going to be going up against in the Southwest Division, because I'm of the belief that, you know, you got 16 games against against these teams, and those teams, I think, if you can at least finish first or second in the Southwest Division, that you'll make the playoffs. That's just my thoughts. And, and you know, it's been brewing so far. So if you can finish first, so a lot of those games that you play in your division are going to be very important for your team. And it's going to be very important for the Pelicans because they are going up against a very retooled and restacked Southwest Division. All the Texas teams have gotten better as far as Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas. So there's the other team, though, that we got to deal with. And it's a team that the NBA, like I said before, has tried to kick off, like, I guess, a rivalry of some sorts with, and that is the Memphis Grizzlies. And when you look at both team situations as of right now, you know, it's the same story with the Memphis Grizzlies as it is with the New Orleans Pelicans. If you go back a year before last, New Orleans had 49 wins, made it to the play-in, got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, but had a great season. Memphis was riddled with injuries and only won 20 games. The reverse of that happened the next season, last season, as you saw. New Orleans riddled with injuries, couldn't get no traction and no game going. Memphis, on the other hand, got everybody back. Was a bounce back season, won 48 games, finished 7th or 8th in the Western Conference, and yet still it's the same situation. Both teams are in similar situations. You have two megastar all-world talents that you're trying to build around. But the problem is those talents keep making more headlines off the court than they do on the court. You know, Zion, his gun stuff, and Zion and the girls. So it's been kind of weird watching what's going on with these two teams, but yet a lot of people talk bad about the way New Orleans is doing it and talk positively about the way Memphis is doing it, which is kind of weird to me. But both teams are facing similar situations, just like New Orleans. This past season, they did a roster shakeup. They fired their head coach, first off, now with 9 games left going into the playoffs, which is something probably New Orleans should have done. You know, I kind of think New Orleans should have done that, you know, but we're going to run it back with Willie Green, which could lead to the issues down the line. But just like New Orleans, Memphis has retooled their roster, and they continue to want to build around the core of Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. Now, how's that going to play out? Well, we're going to take a look at that here. The team that tumbled down the stretch last season in terms of the Grizzlies, after rising as high as second in the West, has since traded scoring guard Desmond Bane, added 3 rookies in the draft, and made a couple moves in free agency to retool the supporting cast around Ja Morant and newly extended Jaren Jackson. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? Sound like another team that added 3 rookies, got rid of one of their offensive weapons and CJ McCollum and filled it in with something else. Sounds familiar, don't it? Sounds familiar, don't it? But I think with them getting rid of Desmond Bane, that's going to help the Pelicans in some way, shape, or form. But I'll get into that in a second. I want to talk about this guy here, though, Jaren Jackson Jr. Because this guy has been, I had to, with no other terms to call it, this guy has been a Pelicans beat down artist. I mean, this dude has abused this team for several seasons now. And, of course, he just got his contract. He just got his money, so he's going to be there for a while. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Pelicans can put up with Jaren Jackson Jr. And I know I think they had this, I think they found a solution. But you're also going up against a team that is again coming off a 49-win season, but still had some shakeups and some mess ups and some holes, and they got a new head coach now, and they're going to have a new system. So I think that's going to favor the Pelicans in this regard. You got a team that's in a similar same fashion as you, exact same emotion, exact same everything. You have to, it is imperative for you to beat this team as much as you can this season, especially the 4 games that you play against Memphis, because I think those 4 games are going to give you the best shot to having at least a step up in that division, especially in the Southwest Division. We'll get into that in a second as well. But considering that Jaren Jackson is coming off all-season toe surgery, and second-year center Zach Edey, who they also have, who's also been a stud for them, is rehabbing from ankle surgery, the Grizzlies could literally limp into training camp and the start of the season. While the projection for Jackson's return is sooner than Edey is expected back, their absence or return to play process will impact the start of the season. Now, what does that mean for the Pelicans? Well, you have to jump out early in these first couple of games against Memphis if you want to get a jump on the season. If you know Jaren Jackson might not be there at the start of the season, this could help you. This could help you if you're the Pelicans, because they have similar schedule issues as you do as well. Again, what's crazy about this is you got to see how parallel everything is with New Orleans and Memphis right now. If you go into the start of the season, like I said just before, if you're going into the season with Jaren Jackson and Zach Edey, may not be 100%. You, as a Pelicans team, have got to capitalize, and it starts with that first game of the season. I know it's way too early to project this, but the schedule opens with a 3-game homestand for Memphis, which could provide a needed boost to establish some early momentum. But then the schedule quickly toughens up as the Grizzlies face 10 opponents from last season's playoff field in a 13-game stretch. That's all according to Michael Wallace of Grind City Media. And if you know, the Pelicans had that same tough 10-game stretch to open the season with. They're going, but the difference is, while Memphis is going to start with a 3-game homestand, the Pelicans are only going to split up their home games and have to go on the road 7 out of those 10 games. One of those road games is the first one of the season against Memphis. And if you can get the jump on Memphis and win that game, if you can win that game, you don't have to see them until November 26th is when the NBA Cup starts. Maybe then you had Jaren Jackson back. And maybe, like I said, the problem that I have is Jaren Jackson last season abused this team. Of course, as you know, the team was injured. We all know it was an injury-riddled season with the Pelicans. Memphis went 4-0 and swept the Pelicans throughout the season. But Jaren Jackson put up games of 29 and 33 points against the Pelicans. Averaged 22 points a game against the Pelicans in those 4 games. But that's why I'm also happy that if you're a Pelicans fan, you need to be happy that the Pelicans went and signed this guy, Kevon Looney. And that's why I was so loud about Kevon Looney being signed when he became a free agent for the Pelicans to pick him up. Because let me hit you with another little step that I came across with at StatMuse. Jaren Jackson Jr. has averaged 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists in 17 games against Kevon Looney in his career. Now, let me rewind the tape on what I said earlier about Jaren Jackson. Last season, that man put up 29 and 33 and averaged 22. If you brought in a guy that can at least get him to put a little dip in those production numbers like that for Jaren Jackson Jr. and Kevon Looney, knock off a couple of points per game and a couple of rebounds per game, then I think you have a better shot at winning if you're the Pelicans. But it will be crucial that the Pelicans win their division matchups against Memphis, because I think that's the only team, in my opinion, that the Pelicans could have a chance of having a winning record up against in the division. I'm not saying they're going to sweep them. I don't think there's going to be a sweep. But at best, I think the Pelicans can win 3 of those 4 games. But it's going to be crucial that they win that first one October 22nd at home in Memphis. The NBA Cup game matchup, I will see what happens around that time and who's back, who's healthy, and all that. But they also have 2 more games in January against Memphis. That they can, by then, around that time, you may have Murray back. And you may have another situation where you have more offensive output to be able to come back. Because, again, you're going up against a team that was top 10 in offensive and defensive rating. But they've lost some of that offensive rating with Bain being gone. They've added more defense with KCP. but you done the same thing too. You added more as well. For every piece that they added, you should have added something as well. I think Zach Edey and E. Missy is a good matchup. They match up well against each other. They battle it out. You got Jalen Wells, that's a rising star as well. They have their core that they're putting together, same as the Pelicans are. But in this preview that I'm talking about with these two teams, Memphis is the team, in my opinion, that the Pelicans may have a best chance of having at least a winning record against in division, in this Southwest Division. Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas is going to be a whole nother story, and we're going to dip into that a couple of videos from now as I continue to break down and look at and analyze these teams. Now, again, I'm not saying that they're going to sweep, but the Pelicans it will behoove the Pelicans to take advantage early, especially early on in the season, to beat this team. You have the matchups that you need. I think you can have the matchup, especially you're finding out that Jaren Jackson Jr. may not be there for the start of the season. If you find out that Zach Edey may not be at the start of the season, well, you need to try Looney out there, let Missy get in there, and try to score as many points as you can. Because, again, this is one of Ja Morant's going to do his – Ja Morant's going to get his 20-something. Ja Morant's going to get his 20-something. But it's Zion and Trey, who I think is going to be the more offensive weapons of the team. If they can produce, I think the Pelicans have a chance at at least having a winning record against Memphis, which will be a good start, at least to them having a winning record overall. Again, you have got to win these in-division games, the matchups, in order to at least have a place in the playoff picture. Because if you don't, you don't. I mean, if you can't win your division games, you're not going anywhere. It's a done deal. And again, we already have one of the most stacked up divisions in the NBA in the Southwestern Division. But I think, my opinion is, I'm of the opinion that the Pelicans can have a winning record against Memphis, but it will be contingent on how they play at least the first start of these games with them. What are your thoughts on it as we break down the division? We're going to get another video in about the other teams of the division, San Antonio, Dallas, all the Texas teams. We're going to get into that soon, but I want to know your thoughts. Do you think the Pelicans can have a winning record against the Memphis Grizzlies this season? Or do you think with their additions that they made that the Pelicans ain't got a shot? What are your thoughts on it? Clap back at your boy in the comments, man, and let me know what's going on. Also, don't forget to like, share, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, baby. It's Melz talking about them Pels right here on Pelicans Digest. I'll holla at y'all.